Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Today is May 22nd, 2020. It's the 68th day of the quarantine, and we find ourselves this morning in Luke chapter 8, verse 22. The title of the section in my Bible is Jesus Calms a Storm. We're going to read half the story today, which I will do now. One day, he got into a boat with his disciples, and he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side of the lake." Unquote. So they set out. And as they sailed, he fell asleep, and a windstorm came down on the lake, and they were filling with water and were in danger. And they went and awoke him, saying, Master, Master, we are perishing. And he awoke, and we'll stop there. So let's just make some observations in the passage. First of all, Jesus is master at the beginning of the story in the sense that he's the boss of saying we're going to do something different today. We're going to go to the other side of the lake. So he is master in one sense in the story, and it becomes critical how much of a master he is near the end of the story. The second thing is he does tell them, let us go across to the other side of the lake. So he makes a prophecy. He has a word here that either they rely on or they don't rely on, and that becomes important near the end. Verse 23 says, and as they sailed, so they got into a boat. The question is whose boat it was. So many of these disciples were actually mariners, in the sense that the Sea of Galilee, I think, I didn't look it up, but is like 10 miles by 14 miles, something like that. It's not an infinitely big sea, but it's certainly not something you want to be out in the middle of in a big storm. The power of the day was not, motors and gasoline. It was the wind power. So this was a tricky thing, is they used the wind, but they were also at its mercy because, and we find out why, second part of verse 23, a windstorm came down. Now, the Sea of Galilee is 700 feet below sea level. So surrounding it, essentially everything is up. So there's what they call mountains, but they're really very big hills all around the Sea of Galilee, and the wind can whip down upon the lake, and they actually exploited this. Is the wind kind of went one direction in the morning and went the other direction at night, so you could go out to a certain area, fish, and then the wind would turn around midday, and then you could get back. Now the problem is that the sailing system that we have today, they did not have for another 500 years. So basically, they had a sail, and it was like at 90 degrees to the boat, and they could put the sail up or they could put the sail down, but they couldn't tack the way we can today. A simple sunfish sailboat today has way more technology than they had as far as directionality. So we have these mariners, many mariners in a boat. We have Jesus falling asleep. So we see him fatigued from his ministry. We see him human, which is interesting. So this windstorm comes down on the lake, and they were filling with water and were in danger. So we have these mariners in a situation where the boat now has a rate of filling more than the rate that they could unfill it. Certainly, I would think that one of the top 5 pieces of equipment you'd want to bring on a boat would be a bucket, or maybe even 2 buckets, or maybe even 5 buckets to get the water out of the boat if you have water in the boat. Because if you have too much water in the boat, then all you have is a boat full of water, which is basically you are in the water with some wood around you. So that it's this displacement of water that is mentioned here, that they were filling. So water is coming over the sides. They're filling with water, and these guys, it was not their first rodeo. They realize that they're in danger. So in a sense, it's good that they turn to Jesus, and they turn to him either as master of Lord of the universe and savior of the world, or they turn to him because all their other options are out. And I think it's really the latter. So I don't think when they say master, master, they're meaning that they really recognize his divinity quite yet. We'll find that out next time we have a little podcast here, because a revelation is made to them that's something they didn't know. So it wasn't that they knew that Jesus could fix this problem. I think it just was that they were at the end of their rope. So one of the interesting things, I think, to conclude on today is that there's a storm. So later on in his ministry, Mary and Martha and Lazarus, they say, well, if you were here, Lazarus wouldn't have died. And that's not true. You could say the same thing about the storm. Jesus, if you were here, there wouldn't be a storm. There wouldn't be babies born early, or 37-year-olds who die, or friends that have heart attacks, or evil in the world, or cyclones going up the coast of India, or a virus contagion, or even little things like poison ivy. If you were here, Jesus is saying, nope, I'm allowing those things. I even allow on top of my own head. So the sovereignty of the Lord comes into play here. So we've set this up for trouble. Tomorrow, please listen, because we're going to find out what happens. I always like to not read ahead in the Bible, and this is one of those good examples. See you tomorrow.